I'm Mark, a 23-year-old dude who grew up in the suburbs just outside Cleveland, Ohio. Around here, life's pretty ordinary. Think constant drizzle, quaint coffee shops tucked into corners, and greenery stretching as far as the eye can see. I'm slogging through my fourth year of college, chasing a business degree I'm not even sure I give a damn about. My home base is a cramped apartment with peeling paint, shared with a roommate who's practically moved in with his girlfriend, so I usually have the place to myself. To pay the bills and keep my fridge from looking like a ghost town, I sling pizzas for a local spot. It's not a dream job or anything, but it keeps things simple: drive, deliver, repeat. No stress, no drama, just a steady rhythm I kinda dig. That day felt like any other, nothing special on the horizon. I was juggling a full slate of deliveries, nursing a nagging headache from binging a gritty crime docuseries way past midnight. I snagged my keys, threw on my beat-up hoodie, and stepped out into Cleveland's signature gray mist. The first few stops were standard fare, nothing to write home about. A rowdy family with kids bouncing off the walls, some teens who barely grunted a thanks, and a guy who slipped me an oddly generous tip. Then came the final delivery of my shift, a large pepperoni pizza loaded with extra cheese. The drop-off was in one of those quiet, fancy neighborhoods I rarely visit. I figured it'd be a quick, easy way to wrap up the night. I rolled up to the sleek two-story house with a lawn so pristine it looked like it belonged in a movie. The place screamed high class, like it was plucked from a glossy home decor catalog. I strolled up to the door, pizza box in hand, gave the receipt a quick glance to confirm, and knocked. When the door swung open, I froze solid. There stood a woman who could have graced the cover of a fashion mag. She was maybe in her late 30s, or possibly younger, hard to pin down. Her red hair cascaded in soft waves past her shoulders, and her green eyes seemed to pierce right through me, like she knew something I hadn't figured out yet. There was this effortless poise about her that made the world around us blur for a moment. Dressed in a simple cream sweater and dark jeans, she made understated look like high art. I cleared my throat, fumbling through something dumb like, "Here's your pizza." Her lips curved into a slow, knowing smile that hit me like a freight train, and she took the box. Our fingers grazed for a split second, sending a spark up my arm. Then she tilted her head, locked eyes with me, and said in a calm, velvety voice, "Stick around if you've got the guts." My heart did a somersault. Was she messing with me or dead serious? I had no idea how to play it, so I just stood there, dumbfounded. She radiated confidence, completely at ease, like she was savoring the awkward vibe I was giving off. My cheeks were burning, I could feel the heat. I let out a shaky laugh, shook my head, and mumbled, I gotta get back, more deliveries. She gave a small shrug, that same smile lingering, like she'd predicted my response. "Your call," she said warmly, then stepped back inside. The door clicked shut, and I stood there a beat longer, catching my breath. Her words looped in my head, "Stick around if you've got the guts." I jogged back to my car, kicking myself for acting like such a dork. I tried to shrug it off, telling myself it was just a weird, random encounter. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smile, that voice. Later, sprawled on my couch, I couldn't stop replaying it. It was ridiculous. She was just some customer, a total stranger, older, and way out of my league. But that moment stuck with me like a song I couldn't unhear. Her words kept echoing, "Stick around if you've got the guts." The next few weeks were uneventful, just the usual grind of classes, homework, late-night pizza runs, and reheated leftovers. I tried to push that doorstep moment out of my mind, but every so often, her voice would sneak back in, "Stick around if you've got the guts." I kept telling myself it was nothing, just some quirky lady with a bold streak. She was older, way older, and clearly in a different world from mine. I figured I'd never cross paths with her again. Then, on a Saturday afternoon in early May 2025, the sun finally broke through Cleveland's endless gray. I decided to clear my head with a stroll through the park near campus. The air was fresh, kids were laughing and running around, couples wandered with their dogs, and faint chuckles floated on the breeze. I was lost in my earbuds, scrolling through playlists, when something made me stop dead. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted her. My heart skipped a beat. It was definitely her, no mistaking that fiery red hair glowing in the sunlight or the way she moved, graceful but deliberate, like every step was intentional. She wore a simple green jacket, fitted jeans, and a loose scarf draped around her neck. Panic hit me like a ton of bricks. I looked down, pretending to fiddle with my phone like I hadn't just seen her. My chest was tight, heart racing like crazy. What were the odds? Cleveland's not some small town, but it's not a sprawling metropolis either. I told myself to keep walking, don't be weird, just go. But I couldn't. I kept stealing glances and she caught one. Our eyes locked and she flashed a smile, not the sly grin from the delivery, but a warm, genuine one. She started walking toward me, unhurried, like time was on her side. I felt like I might combust. I yanked out my earbuds, trying to play it cool. "Hey," she said, stopping a few feet away. "You look like someone I've seen before." My brain scrambled, but I managed. I think I dropped off a pizza at your place a few weeks ago." Her face brightened as it clicked. "Right? You're the nervous pizza guy. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole." "Yup, that's me," I muttered. She let out a soft laugh, not mocking, but like she found my awkwardness kind of endearing. "You didn't stick around," she said. I shrugged, glancing down the path. "Wasn't sure if you meant it." "I did," she said, her voice steady and clear. Then she tilted her head and asked, "You busy right now?" I blinked, thrown off. Not really." "Then come walk with me." It wasn't a question, but it didn't feel bossy either, just confident, inviting. I couldn't say no. So I started walking beside her down a trail lined with towering pines and vibrant tulips popping with color. At first, we just chatted about small stuff. She asked about my classes, my job, what I wanted to do after college. Turns out she was a freelance editor in publishing, having moved to Cleveland 3 years back after a divorce, looking for a fresh start. Something about her put me at ease. The age gap didn't faze me. She was witty, sharp, and had the knack for really listening, like every word out of my mouth actually mattered. Before long, I was laughing harder than I had in ages. She told me hilarious stories about terrible manuscripts and authors who thought they were the next big thing. I shared the chaos of pizza delivery, spilled sodas, wrong orders, and oddball customers. The more we walked, the more natural it felt. We paused by a small pond where ducks glided lazily across the water's surface. Sophia turned to me, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear with a gentle motion. "You're not like most guys I run into," she said, her voice thoughtful, like she was piecing something together. My cheeks flushed hot. That a good thing or a bad thing? Her lips curved into a soft, almost secretive smile. "It's really good. Shy guys have a charm. I find it kinda adorable." I was floored, not used to compliments like that, especially from someone like her. I stood there, awkwardly kicking a pebble with my sneaker. Then Sophia reached into her bag, pulled out a little notepad, jotted something down in a hurry, and handed me a ripped piece of paper. Her phone number was scrawled on it. "I don't usually hand out my number," she said, "but I've got a feeling you're someone worth knowing." I stared at that scrap of paper, completely thrown. Before I could string together a coherent response, she leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to my cheek. "It's up to you what happens next," she whispered, then turned and strolled away, her graceful calm carrying her down the path until she vanished among the trees. I stood frozen for what felt like forever, clutching that paper like it might disappear if I loosened my grip. Part of me wanted to run after her, the other part was glued to the spot. Eventually, I shuffled back home, still in a daze, her number held tight in my fist. For days, that little slip of paper sat on my nightstand, staring at me. I'd pick it up, study the digits, then set it back down, over and over. I couldn't quite figure out why I was hesitating. It wasn't really about her, she didn't scare me, not exactly. It was what her number represented, the possibilities it could unlock. I'd never had a real relationship, just a few fleeting college hookups that never meant much. Sophia was different. She had this magnetic presence, poised, self-assured. When I was around her, I felt noticed, like I was more than just some young guy fumbling through life. For almost a week, I couldn't muster the courage to call. I drifted through classes and pizza deliveries like a zombie, late shifts, groggy mornings, total autopilot. But my mind kept circling back to her, that warm smile, the way she really listened, that soft kiss on my cheek. Finally, on a rainy Tuesday night in mid-May 2025, I grabbed my phone, took a deep breath, and punched in her number. My thumb lingered over the call button for a solid minute before I hit it. The phone rang once, then twice. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. By the third ring, I was ready to hang up. Then her voice came through. "Hello?" I froze for a split second. "Hey, it's Mark. From the park. And, the pizza delivery." There was a brief pause, then that familiar laugh hit me, warm and twisting my stomach in the best way. "I was starting to think you misplaced my number." I exhaled shakily. "Almost did," I confessed. "Glad you held onto it," she said, her voice carrying that same genuine warmth. "Want to grab dinner?" she asked. My throat tightened. "Like, with you?" "Yes, Mark, with me," she said, and I could hear her smile through the phone. "I promise I'm not scary." I let out a nervous chuckle, feeling the weight lift a bit. We settled on a cozy Italian place downtown for the next night. Sleep barely came that night. My brain kept running through every possible way the dinner could play out. By Wednesday, I was a mess, standing in front of my mirror for nearly an hour, agonizing over what to wear. Everything in my closet seemed either too laid back or like I was trying too hard. I ended up in dark jeans, a button-down shirt, and the one decent jacket I owned. I got to the restaurant early, pacing outside, fidgeting with my phone to calm my nerves. The damp pavement gleamed under the streetlights. Then I saw her, Sophia. She was in a sleek black dress with a light beige coat, her red hair falling in soft curls around her shoulders. She walked toward me with that effortless grace that made the world fade. BB fade out. You look sharp, she teased as she approached. You're not looking too bad yourself, I blurted without thinking. Her smile was warm, gentle. Thanks, she said softly. Dinner felt like a scene from a film. The words just poured out, no awkward silences, just easy, real conversation. We swapped stories about favorite books, songs, and movies that had stuck with us. She shared tales of her travels, her passion for old jazz records, and her dream of writing a novel someday. I was hooked, just soaking in her words. She'd lived a fuller life than me, but she never made me feel small for it. Midway through, I let slip a confession. I was kinda freaked out to call you. Sophia came back from the kitchen and handed me a steaming mug. Chamomile tea, she said with a playful grin. Good for calming the jitters. I gave a shy smile. That obvious, huh? She let out a soft chuckle. I've been around long enough to pick up on the signs. We settled onto her couch, sitting close, sipping tea and chatting quietly. Our talk wandered from books we loved to childhood memories to cringeworthy stories we probably should have kept to ourselves but spilled anyway. The warm tea, the gentle jazz humming in the background, and the cozy glow of the lamps wrapped us in a little world of our own, separate from everything else. Eventually, our words tapered off into a comfortable silence. Sophia set her mug down, leaned back, and fixed her eyes on me, really looked at me for a long, quiet moment. Her gaze held mine, and for once I didn't feel the urge to look away. Why'd you ask me to stay that night? I asked softly. She tilted her head, a faint smile playing on her lips. Because you're not like the others. You're genuine. I wanted to know more. Her fingers grazed my arm lightly, sending a shiver through me. I'm not sure who moved first, her or me, but the distance between us vanished and our lips met in a gentle, unhurried kiss. It wasn't rushed or frantic, it unfolded slowly, carefully, like we were both scared to disrupt the fragile connection we'd built. The rest of the world just faded away. I won't go into every detail of what followed, but it was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. It wasn't wild or fleeting, it was deeper, raw, and real. It felt like we'd both been carrying some quiet void, and in that moment, we found what we'd been missing. Hours slipped by unnoticed. Outside, the city grew still, and a soft rain pattered against the windows. I lay beside her, my head nestled against her shoulder, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. Sophia traced lazy circles on my arm with her fingertips. Then she whispered, "You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever." I shifted to look at her face, bathed in the lamp's soft glow. What's that? Her smile was small, her eyes half shut. Hope. I didn't have words for that, I just let it settle in my chest, because deep down, I felt it too. Sleep eventually pulled us under, tangled in each other's arms. We drifted off to the sound of rain and quiet. Morning crept in softly, sunlight filtering through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. I woke first and just lay there, savoring the moment. Sophia looked serene, almost otherworldly in her peacefulness. I didn't want to move, scared that any motion might shatter the magic. She stirred eventually, her eyes fluttering open, and gave me a sleepy smile. Morning, she murmured. Morning, I whispered back. We didn't say much, just lingered in that perfect, wordless calm, neither of us ready for it to end. After a bit, Sophia sat up, slipped on her robe, and said, "I'll get some coffee going." She moved around the kitchen with that same effortless grace, like it was second nature. The normalcy of it grounded me after the dreamlike night we'd shared, but it felt fragile too, like something that could slip away if we weren't careful. We sat sipping coffee in near silence, exchanging soft smiles and quiet glances, content just to be close. I didn't ask what came next or what it all meant. I didn't want to break the morning's spell with questions. I just wanted to stay in that moment as long as it would last. Eventually, I glanced at the time and realized I had to go. Sophia walked me to the door. "I'm really glad you stayed," she said softly. My chest ached with something I couldn't name. "So am I replied. She leaned in, kissed me slowly, softly, letting it linger just a moment longer. Her hand rested on my arm as she pulled back. "Will you call?" she asked. "Absolutely," I whispered. I walked down the stairs and out onto the quiet street, grinning like a fool. I had no clue what lay ahead, but for the first time in ages, I felt truly alive. The days after were like a dream. I floated through classes and pizza deliveries, buzzing with this quiet, electric thrill. What happened with Sophia wasn't just about that night, it was the way she saw me, the ease of being near her. I kept checking my phone, hoping her name would pop up. The next day, I texted her, "Had the best time. Can't wait to see you again." No reply came. I told myself not to panic, maybe she was swamped with work or needed a breather. 2 days turned into 5, then a week. I sent another text, more tentative, "Hey, you okay? Been thinking about you." Silence. I tried calling. It rang until voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I called again the next day, then the day after. Each time, the same endless ringing, the same empty silence, and the ache in my chest grew heavier. I replayed that night and the quiet morning after in my head, searching for a mistake, but it all felt so right, so natural. For nearly 10 days, the silence from Sophia gnawed at me, tearing me up inside. I hadn't heard a peep from her since that gut punch of a text about her husband, and the not knowing was driving me crazy. I kept telling myself I wasn't some obsessive creep, I just needed something, anything, to make sense of it all, to close the door on this mess. It was a chilly, overcast afternoon in late May 2025 when I found myself driving back to her place, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. The neighborhood looked the same as always, those towering oak trees, the manicured lawns, the air of quiet wealth. I parked my truck a block away, not wanting to draw attention, and sat there for a minute, my breath fogging in the cool air. I wasn't even sure what I was doing there, but I couldn't shake the need to confront the truth, whatever it was. I walked up to her modern, ivy-covered building, the brick exterior looking a little grayer under the cloudy sky. My boots echoed on the old wooden stairs as I climbed to her floor, each creak amplifying the knot in my stomach. I stood outside her door for what felt like forever, my heart pounding so loud I swore it'd give me away. My fist hovered, knuckles inches from the wood, as I tried to psych myself up to knock. What was I even going to say? "Hey, Sophia, was I just a game to you? Or how could you not tell me you're married?" The words felt heavy, stuck in my throat. Finally, I rapped on the door, the sound sharp in the quiet hallway. No response. I waited, shifting my weight, then knocked again, harder this time. Nothing. I leaned in, pressing my ear against the cool wood, straining for any sign of life, footsteps, music, anything. Just dead silence, like the apartment was holding its breath. I stepped back, my mind racing. Was she in there, ignoring me? Had she left town with her husband? The hallway felt colder, the dim light from a single bulb overhead casting long shadows. I glanced at the door again, noticing the faint scratches around the new lock I'd installed months ago, my own handiwork staring back at me like a reminder of how deep I'd gotten. Part of me wanted to use the key I'd thrown away to barge in and demand answers, but I'd already trashed it, along with any illusions about what we had. I lingered a moment longer, the weight of it all settling in my chest, anger, hurt, and a strange kind of grief for something I never really understood. Finally, I turned and trudged back down the stairs, the creaks under my boots sounding louder in defeat. Back in my truck, I sat for a while, staring out at the drizzle starting to speckle the windshield. I kept replaying every moment with her, the way she'd laugh at my dumb jokes, the quiet nights with wine and old movies, the warmth of her touch. But now, those memories felt tainted, like I'd been looking at them through a dirty lens. Had she been lying the whole time, or had I just been too blind to see the truth? I thought about the men's razor, the colognes, the watch, those little clues I'd brushed off as nothing. They weren't nothing. They were pieces of a life she'd kept hidden, a life I had no place in. I drove home, the radio off, the hum of the engine the only sound. My apartment felt smaller that night, the walls closing in as I tossed my keys on the counter. I opened the drawer out of habit, half expecting to see that silver key still there, but it was gone, just like whatever I thought I had with Sophia. I sank onto my couch, rubbing my hands over my face, trying to make sense of the ache in my chest. I wasn't just mad at her anymore, I was mad at myself for letting it get this far, for ignoring the signs, for wanting her so bad I'd convinced myself it was real. The next morning, I forced myself back into routine, hoping work would keep me grounded. I had a job replacing a garage door spring for a retired couple across town. As I tightened the bolts, the husband, a gruff old guy with a handshake like a vice, chatted about his days as a mechanic. "You gotta know when to let go of a bad job, son," he said, not knowing how much his words hit home. I nodded, gave him a tight smile, and kept working. But his advice stuck with me, rattling around in my head as I drove to the next job, then the next. I was good at fixing things, doors, sinks, walls, but I didn't know how to fix this, how to patch up the part of me that still felt raw. Over the next week, I threw myself into work harder than ever, taking every job I could get. Rewiring a porch light, patching a roof leak, even building a bookshelf for a young couple moving into their first home. I smiled, cracked jokes, acted like the same old Ethan, but it was a performance. Every night, I'd come home, crack open a beer, and sit in the quiet, trying not to think about her. But she was still there, in the back of my mind like a song I couldn't stop humming. I wondered if she ever thought about me, if she felt guilty, or if I was just a blip in her life, already forgotten. One evening, after a long day, I stopped by a hardware store to grab some supplies for a job. As I stood in the aisle holding a pack of screws, I overheard a guy talking to the cashier about his wife, how they'd been married 20 years and still fought like newlyweds. It made me think of Sophia's husband, some faceless guy I'd never meet who probably had no idea I existed. I wondered what she told him when he was home, how she explained her days, her nights. The thought made my stomach churn, but it also lit a spark of resolve. I wasn't going to be that guy anymore, the one chasing answers from someone who'd never give them. I paid for my stuff and walked out into the cool evening air, the sky streaked with pink and orange. For the first time in days, I felt a little lighter, like maybe I could let go of the weight I'd been carrying. I didn't have closure, not really, but I was starting to see I didn't need it from her. I needed it from myself. I climbed into my truck, turned on the radio, and let an old country song fill the silence as I drove home, ready to leave Sophia and that whole tangled mess behind me. Confused and desperate, I headed downstairs to the small office by the entrance. The building manager, a middle-aged guy with thick glasses and a clipboard, looked up as I walked in. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I'm looking for Sophia, third floor, corner unit," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tremor. He glanced at his clipboard, squinting. "You mean Miss Nelson?" I nodded. "She's gone," he said. My stomach plummeted. "Gone? When?" He flipped through a few pages. "About a week ago. Paid up, turned in her keys. No forwarding address. That was it." I stood there, numb. "You sure?" I asked, knowing the answer already. He gave a small, sympathetic shrug. "Sorry, kid." I wandered out dazed. The streets felt colder, emptier. Even the sky seemed duller. I stopped across from her building, staring up at her window, her empty window. She was gone. No note, no explanation, no goodbye. I'd never figure out what happened. Did I screw something up? Was she spooked? Did she see me as just a passing moment, a quick spark that fizzled out? Those questions would stay unanswered. The days after were tough, like wading through mud. I kept glancing at my phone, feeling like an idiot, knowing no message was coming. I wandered back to that park where we'd crossed paths, holding on to some faint hope I'd spot her by chance. She was never there. Over time, I stopped searching, stopped expecting. I had to face it, Sophia was just a chapter in my life, not the whole book. The pain cut deep, in ways I couldn't quite explain, but even so, I wouldn't trade a single moment of it. What we shared was real. It didn't last long, no doubt, but it was real in the way that sticks with you, that leaves a permanent mark on your soul. In those few days, Sophia gave me more than most people ever have. She made me feel like I mattered. She taught me to take risks, to find courage I didn't know I had. For the first time, she made me believe I was enough for someone. One night, strolling home under the soft glow of streetlights, something inside me shifted. I let her go. A quiet smile crept across my face as I thought of her. Maybe some people aren't meant to stick around forever. Maybe they come into your life just to show you what's possible, to prove that even fleeting love is worth every second. When I got to my apartment, I stopped outside the door. I tilted my head back, stared up at the starry sky, and took a deep breath. "Thanks, Sophia," I whispered softly. Then I turned the knob, stepped inside, and kept moving forward, carrying her memory like a quiet, cherished weight in my heart.